It's the JaeTae Show. It's the JaeTae Show. It's the JaeTae Show. It's the JaeTae Show. Seasons, greetings, and welcome to the JaeTae Show.
Welcome to the JaeTae Show. I can't give y'all all of that.
Shantae. Welcome, y'all, and happy Mother's Day to our mothers and every mother. Thank you all so much for joining us today. We have made it to chapter 11 of Crushing. And, you know, I want to say this as we get started on this chapter. We have been taking our time with this because we really want to get out of it everything that God wants us to get. And truly, as we have been walking this path in this book, we have been so blessed. In fact, I believe a lot of the blessings and encouragement and strength that we've been able to move forward with in these past few months, weeks, and days is because we have read this, we're reading this book and are receiving what it is that God has given Bishop to give us. And so thank you all so much for joining us. I did put in the notes that if you are interested in joining us, you are more than welcome to join us in the Zoom room. It is always an honor to just even consider inviting others to join us. We rarely, I don't think we've ever had, Chantel, we've never had anybody to join us in a Zoom room, huh? No. Except our guests. Yeah. Well,
Today's a new day.
It is a new day. It's a new opportunity.
It's a new chapter.
And you might, we're at a new chapter. In fact, that new chapter is chapter 11. And if you are interested in joining us, you are more than welcome. Of course, this episode will not officially premiere on YouTube until 7:30 p.m. tonight, but we do pre-record so that we can have time to edit and make sure that everything is prepared for 7:30. And so this is our live. We're going live just to, again, offer the opportunity for those of you who may want to join us if you've read the book or if you just heard something that we've shared along this journey of reading Crushing that has blessed you as well. We would love to hear from you. Truly, truly, truly. I wholeheartedly believe that our labor is not in vain because, again, we are being helped. We are being blessed by our studying and reading of this book. And we've gotten so many nuggets and we've seen so much of our lives in this, especially when it pertains to being crushed. Girl, look.
That in itself.
All that in itself. Lord have mercy. It just sometimes it just seems like it's not worth it. But the way Bishop paints this picture, we understand that the crushing is not it. That's not it. In fact, right now in the book and possibly even in our lives, we are in the process, in the part of the process, which is called fermentation. And this particular chapter is entitled Spiritual Fermentation. And so we want to jump right in. We're not doing much of the chapter. We're just reading through two sections, but I've highlighted so much in this chapter that, or in these two parts of the chapter that it's going to take a minute to get through these highlighted notes, especially with the extra notes. So let's jump right in. I know you already know how it is. One of the things I didn't highlight this, but Bishop shares a quote by R.A. Torrey that says, spending time with God puts everything else in perspective. I didn't read that when I first started this, but I saw it and thought that it was worth sharing because often, as he alludes to in the book, in this part of the chapter, many want to always be surrounded by people. And, I've been there. But when God has chosen you, he has a way of making you get by yourself with him so that he can do what it is that he desires to do in and through you. And so neither one of us highlighted anything on pages 185 or 186 because Bishop is sharing part of his own testimony of going to Jerusalem and visiting the Wailing Wall. But on page 187, he was sharing how those who practice Judaism rock back and forth as an homage to how God moved with them in the wilderness. Wherever the people of Israel went, Yahweh went with them. It says he lived and moved among his children in the midst of the wilderness, guiding them in their wandering. When I read that, I had to highlight it because what is it? What is our response? Their response is to rock back and forth as they pray and think about what the Lord has done. What is our response when we think of what the Lord has done for us? What do we do when we think of or when we understand that God is with us in the midst of our wilderness and that he is really guiding us in our wandering? Sometimes it seems like we're moving aimlessly. Sometimes it looks like we're moving with no purpose. But when you know that God is with you, that, JaeTae, it brings me back to the very thought of what we've shared before. I just don't know or understand. I don't even understand how those who say they don't believe in God or believe in Jesus make it through this life. Listen, y'all, if I have to do it on the J Bass Today show, I would love to talk with you about how it is you move through life if you are not a believer. Because for me, this is how I make sense of life. This gives me a modicum of peace. This gives me some kind of understanding to help me move forward in life when otherwise it just seems like I'd just rather give up because it wouldn't make sense. And so to know that in the wilderness, in our wandering, I think about the things that I've been through to get to this moment and that God was with us every step of the way, even when it didn't look like it, even when it didn't feel like it, he was with us every step of the way. And just knowing that, reading that, believing that makes a difference. JaeTae, you have anything?
Well, I didn't highlight anything on this page, but I'm just gonna kind of piggyback off what you said. When he talked about how they rocked, it made me think about when we're in church and they say lift your hands. Mm-hmm. Like that is our way of expressing our hallelujah towards God and adoration towards him. And then I always have to talk about my kids, but we pray every day. And some of my kids kneel all the way down to the ground when they pray. And at first I was stopping them. I'm like, I'm gonna tell you why.
You better tell us.
They're like their head down and they're like muffling. And I tell them, like, we're not praying to the devil. Like, lift your voice, like lift your head up. But then I stop because I don't know if that's how they do it home. Mm-hmm. They may kneel all the way down to the ground. Mm-hmm. And I noticed that in chapel, that's what they're all doing now. They're all kneeling on the ground. And I'm thinking if 3 through 5th grade is in there, I don't know how 5th graders are. If they're doing it at 3, mm-hmm. why can't we do it at 33 and 34 and 35? When the altar is open every Sunday, why don't we go and take our burdens there? This is kind of off subject, but I went to a church today and they had an altar. And the altar was open at prayer. And I kind of sat in the back at prayer because I didn't know. So I noticed that people just started going up and I was like, oh, so they go up, to this altar and kneel. And I've never done that before. So it was just different to see, a person like actually at an altar and kneeling. Because we say the altar is open, mm-hmm. but there's no altar, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah. Wow, that's interesting. But that is, you know, that is truly a blessing. And just to hear that about the children kneeling, uh, and just knowing that that is authentic worship, even though they haven't had the life experiences that we've had.
They've had something though.
They've been through something,
Yeah.
and if they don't know anything else, they know that God deserves our praise. That we can talk to Him, and it's just a blessing, you know, to know that this Christian school is making a way for these children to learn these early, so that when they start going through the things that we've been through, Lord have mercy, that they too will already have a foundation that has been settled and sure for their journey. All right, page 190 says, he values the harvest and wine his fruit will produce. It says God, he recognizes the value of seclusion because he values the harvest. And at the end of the day, when I think about how gifted and talented so many of us are, my God, God gives us these gifts. It is Him who does this. And as much as some of us have wanted to give up and be done, it wasn't up to us because God values the harvest and the wine his fruit will produce. And so if we hadn't gotten to that point of wine and producing, we can't give up. He ain't gonna let us go. And so sometimes he does have to let us go alone so that he can do in us a new work. You know, when I looked at the thought of being secluded, it brought me to the thought that while we're secluded, it's a good time to deal with and organize the stories that we've heard. In this life, we hear so much on a daily basis. And having that alone time gives us a chance to sift through all of that and really figure out, okay, this is what I'm going to keep. This is what I'm throwing away. I needed to hear that. I didn't need to hear that. And so I'm making the distinction between it. And God has a way of helping us with that. And then also, you know, again, working on our mind and our heart and making us ready so that when we do go back out, we go out with a new perspective, a fresh perspective, ready to, again, fulfill the assignment that it is that he has for us. And I still have more because I think about being in this season of life and where we are with true laborers of Christ. And it just would not seem like after these years and years of music ministry that we would be at the place that we are, where we're basically sat down, and that it is God's doing. I've done my best to try to keep things going. We've done our best, and it just seems like right now, God is refocusing us. He's putting us in different places to do different things. And it's not to say that true laborers will never be back, because we are true laborers. We are faithful, dedicated, committed workers who belong to Christ. But again, that thought came because sometimes God needs to seclude us away from all of that to get our attention. Because, you know, Tae, what I was thinking is sometimes we think our lives are meant for one thing. We get wrapped up in one area, or thinking that, you know, this is where it's going to be at. You know, if we can really work this is where our life's legacy and purpose is. And God just looking at us and our meager thoughts and thinking, I have so much more for you. There is so much more. So let me just tear all that apart so that I can show you. It's not going to feel good. You're going to be crushed. It's a crushing. So it's not going to feel good. It's not even going to look good. But if you will trust me through the process, if you would trust me through this crushing, if you would be patient during your fermentation, I do have greater in store for you. And again, it is hearing that, believing that, that makes a difference. Where would we be if we didn't have that to hold on to? I probably would be in a whirlwind trying to figure out, what do you do? What do we do? All the money, all the time, all the effort, all the energy that has been invested in this ministry, we can't just let it go down the drain. And God says, just trust me. If you will only trust me. And there's something that's coming up in a reading that will further illustrate that, and I'll wait till we're there. But JaeTae, did you have anything on page 190?
Well, I'm gonna go back real quick.
I get so caught up.
Before I go back to 188,
No?
It made me think about when you said that true labors of Christ.
Mm-hmm.
Although the ministry is, I'm not gonna say the ministry is sat down. Okay, God has set some of the people down because the ministry is in us.
Yeah.
So you alluded to that, but it makes me think, like, just because we're not putting on the actual robes and the overlay,
all the robes and overlays,
and
all the robes and overlays,
going out as true laborers of Christ.
How did you say that?
I'm sorry, because I looked over at this picture. Oh, it makes me think that if we remain faithful, God is going to rebuild us back up to what he actually wanted us to be. You know what I'm saying? Like, God gave you this vision for a reason. He gave you, and I brought it up, y'all, because literally the backdrop, y'all don't see it, but it's us on Jay's stairs where he used to live, and we all had on these robes, and we had a big old photo shoot that day.
What a day.
And we had a really good time. But I remember when we got our robes dedicated, and then we did it in Oklahoma. That was a purpose for that. That was not for nothing, not just for the robes to be in the closet. That's so right. Although right now True Labors of Christ is not doing anything as a ministry, individually, God is still working things out in all of our lives. I believe that.
I do.
I believe that he just doesn't have all of us doing nothing. Like, I believe that he is working through all of us in our own ways, so that when we come back together, we'll be the ministry that he called us to be. And we'll be healed, and, we can be there for one another, and then able to welcome in more people, because we've been through this now. But anyway, on 188, I was going to say, and what I was going to say is why I said that. I highlighted, can you see why it matters? We'll be able to tell why it matters. It's like we hold on to this too shall pass. We'll be able to tell why God took us through the crushing and the sitting down and I actually last night about the concert, or I know we're not going to do the review because we haven't done the music, but a concert, because since I've been a part of T-Life, we normally do something in June. Yeah. And he said no, and I think that was the end of the conversation. But I kind of thought about it, I was like, nothing, like, like, is anybody even thinking about, like, it's almost June, like we normally do something in June. Last year wasn't but a few of us, and he pulled in more people, and we had a good time with just a few of us. But we'll be able to tell why, when this season is over, why it mattered that we have to be set down. Okay.
And I think last year was year 20, huh?
Yeah.
My. Okay. Well, we are at, I
was on 190.
I missed something then.
Yeah, you didn't do 188 and 189.
How did I skip 2 pages?
I don't know.
Sorry, because I got a lot of 188 and 189. All right. God has a willingness to not only move with his people, but his penchant for relocating his chosen ones, be it you, me, or another, before he puts his plan into effect. I thought about that because in my younger days, I was relocated so much. And I've shared that, I felt like I was looking for something that I just couldn't seem to find in a church. And relocating, man, I tell you, we go through the JBass history and really look at how many places I've lived. You talk about relocating, but just to read this, that God, he has a penchant for relocating his chosen ones before he puts his plan into effect.
Yeah.
And so, I've also written a song entitled "It Was Necessary." And so, even though it didn't feel good, it didn't look good, that's something I want to deal with. Musicians that have moved so much. But if on one hand, you look and it can be a negative thing, but imagine looking at your movement and you're being relocated as a chosen one that God is relocating before he puts his plan into effect. What a concept to nullify that other side of the thought. Again, that being able to sit with a thought like that, a reading like this, and to dispel the negativity that comes with relocating. What a blessing, what an honor. And so,
and see it as like seeds planted.
Mm-hmm.
Because if you're going somewhere, you're gonna sing a JBass original. I don't care if you do one or two, they're gonna hear a JBass original. So those are seeds planted.
Yeah.
So that when the next person come along, and then not only JBass originals, but just choir etiquette in general. I'm trying to say it the right way. Like serving under Jay and then going to somewhere else and things are allowed, it just is different. You know what I'm saying? And it teaches you too. You're not like I was at a rehearsal and they were just talking. And they was telling musicians and stuff what to do and all that.
Oh.
And I was like, I was quiet and the lady kind of tapped me. She's like, "You okay?" And I was like, "Yeah." I was like, "I'm just not used to it," because Jay teaches us that in rehearsal. So when you're at those many churches, you planted that seed. So now when the next musicians have come, they don't have to work as hard, because you've already did what you were supposed to.
Wow. Okay. The next thing on page 188 I got was, or the last thing on 188 is, look for God's presence in our own movements and transitions in life. Bishop asked a question, but this is really the thing that you get from this sentence is to look for God's presence in our own movements and transitions in life. And that goes back to reading the previous statement. And I'm still missing stuff. But anyway, just to have that thought, to be able to look at it from that perspective, what an honor. What an honor, to have an alternative way to look at it. That is a blessing. And the last thing on this page says, God's hand and presence are standing front and center in any and every stage of our crushing. Isn't that something?
It's good news.
It is truly good news. Because sometimes when you're being crushed, you feel absolutely alone. Like it's just you. You're the only one going through it. But the truth is, God is right there with you. And the other truth is, there are others around you who are also being crushed. Even as JaeTae just said this, the members down, that you don't know what they're dealing with. We don't know how they are being crushed, but God has a purpose, and he's dealing with each and every one of us. And so to know God can be with me and you at the same time, standing front and center in every stage of our crushing. What a blessing. What a blessing.
I don't know if you read this. Did you read the sentence after God's presence in our own movements and transitions? Okay. The question asks, if we look for him, how can we find him? Do you see that on 188? Shouldn't we look for God's presence in our own movements and transactions in life? And if we look for him, how
transitions? Yeah, I did say that.
What did I say just then?
Transactions.
Transactions. I did not say that.
Okay.
Did I
We can record, rewind. And get done. That's okay. We know.
That's a
I know.
transaction.
That's okay. But we do have transactions. I got your back. We do have transactions too. Amen. It's okay, Shinty. It's not. It's okay.
Maybe that's it.
I'm off for some reason too, but I'm stirred up. I'm going through.
It made me think, and I could be off with this. If we look for him, how can we find him? That means, to me, it means if we're going through these movements and transitions, God is supposed to find us in His Word, in worship. Is that the right? Am I on the right track with that?
I mean, yeah.
Okay.
What?
I just want to make sure.
Why are you asking me that? You should know that.
I'm talking about transactions on these. I'm trying to make sure, honey. I was gonna bust roll the other day, and I went to bed. I don't know. But it made me think about when we look for him, God is right there.
Yeah.
What I was getting to when Jay said that you could need him and I could need him at the same. It makes me think. Today, I went to church early and got out early. At that moment, when the preacher was preaching, somebody else is preaching somewhere else.
Right.
And whatever we needed in that church, God was able to do it for us, and He was able to do it for somebody in the same spot.
That's good.
That's what I was trying to get to. But it makes me think too when we say, "I need to get to the church house to pray," or I can't get there because I'm not ready or so, which is not true. We are supposed to come to God however we are, dirty,
anytime,
filthy,
that's right,
nasty, anyway, and He's going to meet us right where we are. It doesn't matter where we are. And that's just encouraging because this whole, and I heard it Friday at my cousin's funeral. The Bible said, "Come as you are." Oh, I'm in jeans and t-shirt because the Bible said, "Come as you are." And I'm like, that's not what that means. That means you toe up and bring all of that. I remember I was at a service one time and the pastor asked who had weed in their purse, who had liquor in their car, to go and get it. And he was proud of them because even though they had it, they still was there. God could do just what He needed to do with them. He could take the taste away from them. He can take the desire, whatever that void they needed with that at that moment. God could fill that void in church in that moment.
Okay. Well, page 189. It makes no sense to arrive at the fruition of your destiny and have little to no strength to walk in it. Oh, that hit me on so many levels, especially dealing with sickness in this season and the days that, moving around and weak and things, but truly understanding and believing that we are in the fruition of our destiny, even now. And so you do want to have strength to be able to enjoy it and to be able to continue to move about as needed. And so it takes being alone and resting and taking that time. And so then he says, learn the value, healing qualities, and even necessity of being alone to rest, recharge, receive divine insight, and purge what has been affecting them. There are blessings that are found only in solitude. Make time for rest a priority. Those are mine from 189.
I didn't highlight that, but it kind of is the same thing. It's not really much to share, but I was talking Friday or Thursday, whatever, with my therapist, and I was telling her, she's like, "You just seem like you're tired." I was like, "I am." I was like, school, between school and work, I'm ready for both of them to just be over. And I say that, but as soon as school over, I'm gonna miss my kids. But you need time to just like regroup. You got to have time to regroup because it just reminds me of you're pouring from an empty cup. Like you're showing up, but you're not being effective in what you're showing up to do because you're just empty.
Wow.
And then he says, "I'm here to tell you that you cannot afford not to have downtime."
Wow. Can't afford it.
Cannot.
And you know what? It seemed like the world teaches us different. that if you have downtime, you sleeping on what you could be making money on, but this is another counter thought to what the world would make us think. Okay. That's all you have for 189?
Yeah. You must do the same thing with making time to rest as a priority. Yeah.
All right. Well, I've already done 190. I don't know how to skip pages, but anyway, at 191, the Gospels are replete with instances of Jesus withdrawing to be alone and pray. As Bishop had been talking about being alone and praying, I thought about the many biblical times that we read where Jesus retreated to pray. And so then for him to bring this up, I kind of just felt like he would. And here it is. But even our Lord and Savior knew the value of making time to be alone with God. And so we need to really pay attention to that and glean from that wisdom. It says, being alone for a season is valuable in God's sight. God's penchant to move you into the position and place that is most strategic for his will while you experience a feeling of being lost. He has a way of doing that. It just that even if, as I read that and read it again, it just doesn't look like that would be the way. That I'm feeling lost, and simultaneously in feeling lost and wondering sometimes why I'm being moved, what's going on, what's ahead, what is going to be included in this next move, just lost, to know that God is the one moving you into position and into place, into a place that is the most strategic for his will. And we sing about wanting to be in the center of God's will, but a lot of times being in his will, as we're reading, doesn't even look like sometimes that we're in his will. But he's moving us, he's guiding us as we've read. And if we can only trust him, I still hadn't gotten to that. Maybe it's on the last page. But anyway, my next one is, we do not serve a stagnant, motionless, dormant, inactive, or idle God. God is always on the move. His movement suggests progress and purpose, and he is a perpetually moving God. He will move us to accomplish his ultimate goal and purpose in and for our lives. That's it for that page. 191.
Okay.
Nothing?
I had the same thing, so.
Oh, okay. Well, here it is. This is what I've shared and kept saying I know it was in here. It might be difficult to trace him in our times of trouble, but that is when it is absolutely necessary that we trust him.
Yeah.
Oh, that trust is so big, because sometimes, because of the things that we've experienced and that we've gone through, you question if God is for you. You question if he's with you. And so it raises a modicum of doubt. It raises a level of fear that, okay, I'm walking, I'm this happening. God, what am I going to do if you really are not with me? But just to know that even in those times, we can be strengthened in our trust and our faith in him, that it does pay off. It does make a difference. Again, it brings me back to that very thought. If I'm going through all this hell and I don't believe in God, what other counter thought or counter option do I have to combat the fact that I'm going through these low moments? What else can I think or believe to help me get through this moment? It would just say, sadly, it just seems like, if those of us who are believers at those low moments in our life when we were feeling lost and wondering if God was with us, if we thought about suicide, how much more for them? And so that really, 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 really makes a difference to know that even when I can't trace him, I can trust him. For it is in that space of wondering without interference that we begin to discover hints at the husbandman's will for our lives. That's it.
I don't have anything highlighted, but what you already said, but it just makes me think, literally about like a day-to-day situation. Like you don't know when you walk out of this door what's going to happen, but you're trusting because you've already prayed and asked God to, order your steps and to leading God and, praying for traveling grace while in the car, that he's going to do just what he said. And when you make it to your destination and you pass it up a rick, you pass it up a cop that should have gotten you or you should have been in it, then, it makes you think like, God, like, you really are there. Like, I trusted you when I walked out the door.
Yeah.
Now I really can trust that if you can do this, then I know you can do anything else.
Yeah. That's the thing about having history with God. I keep hearing this more and more, but I've been sharing it before I started hearing it more and more, that we have a record with him. That is what makes the difference, knowing what he has already done. And it's, I think about our elders that as your life goes on, it's like those things stack up and stack up and stack up and stack up to the point now you got a whole book, a whole mini series of things that the Lord has done, the times that he's brought you through. Think about, you just shared that tale of leaving home and making it to our destination safely and then making it back home safely. Think of how many times in a week alone that we do that. And he brings us safely through. And then how many weeks and months and years that he's done that. And sometimes we take these things for granted, but God is still with us. He's still guiding us. And it just brings me back to the thought of being one of his chosen ones. A lot of times we don't feel chosen. What we're going through doesn't make us feel chosen. In fact, it looks like we may have been forgotten and overlooked and all this, but God has a way of turning that around. When I think of the things that I've experienced this weekend alone, I can't help but give God all of the glory. I cannot help but give him all of the praise because I know it's nobody but him who is bringing such grace and favor forth in our lives in this season. And so God bless you all. Thank you so much for joining us. Tay, do you have anything else before we close out?
I do.
Oh, okay. All right. Well, God bless you all. I do want to say on the 23rd of this month, it just seems like not many of you are going to see this. And if you see it, you probably won't watch all the way through. But on the 23rd, which is a Thursday, and it was the only time that my personal photographer was available. Okay. Who took these pictures up here. I think I'm pointing the right way. Let me see. I'm looking at the, let's see. Okay. Yeah. Who took this picture of us for the JaeTae show. And he is available on the 23rd. And so I booked time with him to do something to commemorate that. Normally, I don't really make a big deal of like 1 through 4 birthdays. I just love it's something about 5 birthdays. But now it's kind of to the point where every birthday is a blessing. And so I don't know, it's just something about the number 5 and being able to celebrate those birthdays, doing the big. But this year, I want to at least do a small project with some photos with loved ones and friends, just to commemorate that after all that we've been through, that we're still here. And that may not mean much to you, but when you have felt like God was getting ready to take you out of here and that your life was about to be over. And instead, he flips the script and he raises you up, blesses you in a way that it is undeniable that he's with you. You ought to celebrate. And so on the 23rd, I would love for you to join us in Dickinson at New Vision for a photo shoot. Anybody that wants to come, I plan on being there for a few hours. You can come, take your picture, and leave right on back out. Because hey, it would be nice. Now that would be lovely. Knowing my life at this season and juncture, it's not very likely, but it would be awesome to have people out the door, church packed, waiting to take a picture with JaeTae. Okay, wouldn't that be something? Yeah, that would be
picture first.
Now that would be an awesome picture book. And so I'm extending the invitation for you all to be there on my official day, which is the 16th. I do plan to be rebaptized. I've shared this before because first and foremost, it just is a new season. Last year, I stepped up at our church to declare that I did want to be rebaptized because when I got baptized at 12, I only did it because my grandmother said you need to be baptized. And I hadn't even thought of it. But it's after I've really been through some things with the Lord and do have that record that I spoke about earlier, that now it's a difference. It's a difference. I know when I go under that water and come back up, there will be a difference. And so if you are interested in churching with us and joining with us that day, we would love for you to be a part. I know JaeTae is planning something after that. And so you might want to inbox her individually.
No, do not inbox me. Please do not.
Why don't you want them to inbox you?
You want to know the truth? This is the JaeTae show.
Oh, come on. Yeah.
We don't want nobody there that don't really support and love on you. They could, that's just the way I feel.
But if they show up and they want to come.
We don't want nobody just come to be nosy.
You think they would just be coming to be nosy?
I believe people would. People go to church just to be nosy. That's the church house, so why wouldn't they come to anything else? So do not inbox me. I'll inbox you if you're invited. Thank you.
So you're making this an invitation only to my birthday celebration. Oh. Okay, y'all.
So many people.
Oh, okay.
You only can get.
Now, when you put it like that, that does make a difference because we were going to have to talk about this after the show. Okay, well, you saved us a conversation. Oh, truly. Oh, y'all, we are cooking a mighty meal. So God bless you all. Stay tuned for 7:30 for the actual premiere of the JaeTae show.
Have a good night.
Huh? What?
Have a good evening.
All right, God bless.
It's the JaeTae show.